podcast who hates school. I am hella Mark Harley, and you are watching the Haters Will Say podcast. And haters will say, oh, I'm just watching this because it sucks and I don't even like it. But in reality, if you're watching the 16th episode all the way through, you're just a fan now. Got him! What's up, people and peopleettes? My name is Mark Harley, in case you didn't know, and you're in for the ride of your life. It's January of 2022, and I'm looking forward to February of 2022, when it's going to be 2/22, right? February 22nd in 2022, and it's also going to be a Tuesday, so that's an extra 2, all right? So let's just all set our sights on that and kind of invigorate ourselves psychologically, because when we look forward to really fun things, it actually can help our overall happiness, okay? So that's my tip to you, free of charge. Get over it. I just do things like that because I'm generous. So I have a confession to make right off the bat. I lied to you. Last week's episode, I made it seem like I recorded it and released it a week after I recorded the last episode before that. But in reality, I recorded 2 back-to-back. Ooh, don't get mad at me. I'm sorry. Oh, no. Okay, secret. It's been eating me up this entire time, so I just wanted to make sure to come clean with you guys. I recorded 2 episodes back-to-back so that I could go visit my brother and his wife and his 2 kids, his 2 young children, Catherine and Richard, named after my dead father. It's whatever, you know what I mean? You can make fun of that if you want. You can think, oh, that's so stupid of my brother to continue on, this painful memory of my father's death with your son's name. But I think it's cool. So, drop your opinion in the comments section below. Do you think that's a shitty thing to do, to name your kid after your dead father who hasn't even met him, or not? Give me your hot take. So I went out to Rhode Island. Shout out Short Kings. I actually met up with Christian and Gianni. We got a lift in. Is that the most important part about what happened? No, it's just that haters are saying we weren't going to meet up, and then we did. So there's another L for you haters to hold. I have to say, Christian, your dad is one of, you set it up that way, right? I don't think anybody's like denying who has met him, or if you're framing it in a conversation, you're not like, oh, this is a boring, unfunny guy. But let's just say my expectations were met and exceeded with Christian and Gianni's dad, because he's both very smart and very hilarious and sounds like an Italian Guido. You know what I mean? So he's talking a mile a minute. He's like, let me tell you about the security thing that we're doing, this new application that's using this advanced technology. Like, he'll talk your ear off for, an hour at a time about the technology that he's developing. I don't want to go too into it because I know it's kind of top secret. But he conveyed to me that he's a very smart guy who has amazing ideas as an entrepreneur and seems to know quite a bit about tech. We talked about cryptocurrency and all these different things, but I got a real kick out of it. It was cool to see your house, and meet your mom, and just, meet your other secret brother, Big Maga. Is that his name? Yeah. It's Alex though, right? Yeah, Big Maga. We discussed conspiracies for a little bit, didn't we? He actually, I will say this. He gave me some insight into the Las Vegas shooting conspiracy. I had never heard that. And I was when he started going in, and I'm like, oh, I'm ready for a bunch of BS about this. But his theory was or not his theory, but the thing that he was asking about or talking about, was that it was an assassination attempt, on some sort of Middle Eastern, like a Saudi prince or something like that. But it was the shooting was a distraction in order to get him, but it didn't work out. And I was like, okay, at least there's a motive there. At least there's something I can wrap around, rather than, for example, anytime somebody's false flag attack, I just am super skeptical of anything being a false flag in America perpetrated by the government to take away your guns, because I just don't see that ever happening. And then, for what? As if the military couldn't overtake any group of armed citizens, so they need to have a false flag. And then if it comes out, if it's unsuccessful, because all these false flags, but people still have guns. So I guess, if there's been any false flags, they've been wildly unsuccessful. And then you also are carrying the risk now that comes out later. And it's oops. Yeah, we just killed 100 people for no reason. Oops. But yeah, that was really cool to meet you guys, or to meet your family. it was also cool to see my nephew, as I mentioned before, named Richard. He'd only seen me. Well, we'd met before, but he didn't remember me because he was so young. So he'd only seen me on the TV playing Stump on Nickelodeon. So I got to do the cute thing where he's like, "You don't sound like you do on the TV." And I'm like, "You mean if I talk like this?" Like, "Yeah, that's it." So very cute. Got to spend Christmas with them because you only get so many cute kid Christmases, right? Before they grow up. So saw Catherine and Richard, and then I drove cross country in a Prius that I bought off my brother because I needed a new car. And Priuses get great gas mileage. So off to the races. I procrastinated for a few days. I'll just stay another day. And until finally I had to leave and went down, through Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Missouri, through the top of Texas, Oklahoma as well, New Mexico, Arizona, the north of Arizona through Flagstaff, and into California. So, was Vegas in there? So, no, it was Nevada. I'm not sure. We'll look it up, but I will say this. It was extremely cold through Texas and New Mexico. The only difficulties I have as far as driving were in snowstorms across the north of Texas and across New Mexico, 15 degrees, big wind, big snow. Had a little trouble braking one time ahead of somebody and had to swerve off the road. And actually when my brother this is on my mind because I'm like, oh shit, this is about to happen to me, because my brother picking me up from the airport on our way back to the house hit somebody in snow. One of those slow motion things where you hit some ice and you're 30 feet away from somebody, you start braking, oh shit, and somebody's to your left, so you can't swerve into them, and you're trying to honk, but a honk isn't going to alert somebody to be like, hey, I'm sliding in snow. You need to move forward right now into the crosswalk or else I'm going to hit you. So, it just sucks. It's this thing. It's like, oh, hey, I'm going to hit you. And then you can't control it. And it's just hits you hard enough to dent something. So similar thing on the freeway, I'm braking, but luckily there was nothing to my left, so I got to pull off to the side a little bit. But it was scary. Okay, it was scary, dude. So that's what I was doing, and now I'm back live in California, not faking a new episode being done in a similar chronological fashion as all the last ones. So that pretty much covers that. I wanted to talk about something that came on my radar as I expand the show into more pop culture stuff, just because this I don't follow football, but Antonio Brown, our friend Antonio, who I also don't, I guess is a big player, but I don't follow, I will watch football. I played football in high school and college and know enough about the sport that I can enjoy it without knowing any of the narratives, any of the stats or what's going on in the season to add to the drama of any individual game. This caught my eye in a group chat. They sent out this list of stuff that he'd done because, his antics catch your attention for the fact that he's going, he undressed and left the sideline of a game during a Bucs game, and that makes headlines, but you're immediately curious, okay, what was the context of this? And, he said he wasn't going to play, or he said he was injured, and the Bucs management or coaching said, go to the locker room then. So it wasn't totally clear, he said, they said kind of thing. But I guess the bigger context, the more informative context for me was the things that he's done in the past. And so I'm going to ask you, because part of me feels bad about making somebody who's, making light of somebody who's potentially very mentally ill. But at the same time, I think that blends together when we're talking about, somebody with elements of narcissistic personality disorder, or just some other type of grandiose, exploitative, traits, lacking in empathy, whatever you want to call that, however you get there. But obviously people can be affected by wealth, fame, and power negatively to the point that they, behave as if there are no consequences. So that puts you on that kind of spectrum of NPD. But I'm not saying, obviously, I can't diagnose him, but, only a professional A mental health professional, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist of some sort would offer true insight to that after working one-on-one. But here's a list of things that I thought were fascinating in his history. Kicked out of Florida International University after fighting a security guard. Trashed a condo and threw furniture out the window of a 14th floor condo, which almost hit people, notably a child. Killed a home aquarium full of piranhas and refused to pay the man who installed the tank. So how quickly did that happen? Like the installation came and then he like immediately killed them? And was this his decision? Was this somebody else's decision to get only piranhas? I find that really funny and eccentric in and of itself, that he's just like, all piranhas, dude. He dyed his mustache blonde, which could be cool or not, you know, depending on what you're going for. But in the context of this, I guess his eccentricity, bordering on harmful to other people. It's just this little data point in the midst of all this, a crazy sea of other antics. Refused to pay a chef because he thought he threatened him by placing a fish head in the freezer. The fish head was saved to make soup. He farted on a doctor. He liked to tweet about Mayock getting, I guess there's a context to this one about Mayock, which I'll get back to. He tweeted a couple of bizarre tweets about the Raiders using him for HBO ratings and the Patriots trying to steal his stuff, and kept using this weird chicken-based metaphor. Tried out for the Saints and brought an entourage and film crew to shoot a music video with him when specifically told not to do that. They're like, whatever you do, when you try it here, do not shoot a music video, okay? Are we clear? He's no music video, dude. We got this. Like, there's definitely not going to be a music video shooting. That's crazy. Like, I'm just here to try out for the Saints. Obviously, no entourage, no nothing. It's just me. Like, no, you can rest easy tonight. There's literally no music video plans whatsoever. And then he shows up and he's like, psych, got you. You've been punked. Called out Robert Kraft for his rub and tug massage session in Florida. Was he playing for the Patriots at that point? Maybe that would be like the thing that makes it even more awkward. Calling out your boss for paying for hand jobs. Before he signed with the Buccaneers, AB was accused of destroying a surveillance camera at a Florida gated community, throwing a bike at a security guard shack, and is not charged because HOA president feared retaliation, per police report. Allegedly acquired a fake COVID-19 card. Oh my God, that's the worst thing of all. How dare he? Lock him up right now. Starting training for a boxing match with Logan Paul. Tweeted, no more white women 2020. A police youth football league cut ties with him and returned a donation after the release of the video, saying there was an irreparable rift between the department and AB. Was involved in a dispute with movers at his home where he allegedly threw rocks at the movers and moving vans. He's currently being investigated for battery from the police. Showed up to this is the funniest one to me. Showed up to Raiders training camp in a hot air balloon. Held out and refused to show up to training camp because the NFL would not approve his helmet because it was too old for their safety standards. So what did he show up with? One of those like leather ones with no face mask from the 1920s. Tried to paint over his old helmet, hoping no one would notice, I guess. Acquired a newer version of the same model helmet, which the NFL refused to let him use. Here's the Mike Mayock one. Tried to fight Mike Mayock, called him a cracker, had to be held back by Vontaz Burfict, then punted a football down the practice field and said, "Fine me for that." Got fined for that, and then I guess liked a tweet later about Mike Mayock getting raped in the ass. So, finally, this is the one that probably made me laugh the most. He threw a bag of gummy candy dicks at the cops in a video he posted. But as we were saying earlier, Casey, who hasn't done that? Who hasn't thrown a bag of gummy bear dicks at a police officer? But it just goes to show you that old adage is true. If you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw a bag of gummy dicks at the cops, because they will stick to the windows of the glass house. Then you have gummy dicks everywhere. Okay, so that's it for Subful. I hope you got a good laugh out of that. And let me know in the comments whether you think that Antonio Brown is suffering from mental health issues or suffering from narcissistic personality disorder brought on by wealth, fame, and power, Or if you believe those two things are interrelated, and you could say somebody who has NPD is actually suffering from mental health issues, and we should sympathize for that person. Let me know what you think. All right, so we got another hater of the week. Now, a lot of people have been sending me and tagging me in this clip, okay? And thank you for doing that. Thanks for bringing this to my attention, because it seems as though the guy who I had beef with, who I squashed the beef with, is now trying to beef with me again in a subliminal fashion. He's not calling out my name, but I think it's pretty clear that he's aiming these barbs at your boy, Hella Mark Harley. So let's run the tape here.
Nobody tell Jack the guys, hey guy, you look awful. The fucking haters be like, oh, Chris, you're just jealous. Right, I work out, your boy keeps it beefy. I'm breaking strong guys' hearts all across the country, well into the UK. It's crazy that when big-ass muscular dudes walk into places, that people don't audibly go, ew, or at least, whoa.
All right, so let's just break that down for a second. This is going to be a different hater of the week, because Chris, I just wanted to say, first of all, I thought we were cool. And then you're talking about haters. You're talking about big guys looking horrible. I think it's pretty safe to say you meant me. And I'll tell you this. Maybe you should have some more compassion for people who are so addicted to lifting weights and taking steroids that they deliberately put themselves in a position where they look atrocious to the rest of the human population. Now, if you ask them directly, do you know you look awful? They might not be able to admit it. They might not be ready to have that conversation. But the fact is, deep down, we know it doesn't look good. But you're going to have the same effect going up to somebody who's like addicted to meth and going like, do you know you look like you're on drugs? Do you know you look emaciated? Do you know your face is full of zits? Do you know you have rashes all over your body? Do you know you're picking at open scabs all over your chest? Do you know that? They're not going to be like, oh my God, you're right, I'm going to stop. Because the drugs and the psychosis are much more powerful than the judgment of the average person watching them. It's an addiction. It's a psychological problem. A lot of people who lift weights develop something called bigorexia, okay? It's like anorexia, but the opposite. Anorexic people look at themselves in the mirror and they see a fat person, even though they're super skinny. And so somebody who's bigorexic, like me, looks in the mirror and sees Dakota Fanning at 10 years old, okay? Now, I'm never going to be able to get big enough. No matter how big I get, I'm always going to look in the mirror and think, that motherfucker is skinny. He's a little bitch, And it has nothing to do with me getting picked on as a kid, for example, as other people have suggested, like, sure, I at some point I was actually skinny, but I was 6'3", 220 by the time I played, football in high school as a senior, whatever. It's totally irrelevant. But it's not about like I'm getting picked on and then I have to overcompensate, right? It's just a sickness that develops because you like doing something, right? You start out like doing meth. I mean, the first time you do it, it's fun. The first time you increase your bench press, it's fun. The first time you put on a shirt and it's a little bit tighter than the last time you put on, it's fun. But then you take it too far. And it's something that can require years of psychological, help and therapy to unwind. And not everybody's willing to do that because a lot of people who might suffer from a condition like this are spending all their money on supplements and steroids. So they don't have any money for psychological professional help. So all I'm asking you, Chris, hater of the week, is to maybe have some empathy for the people that you're attacking and realize, yeah, on some level, they do know that they look awful. And maybe you should start with a conversation like, hey man, what if you were like a little bit smaller? Can you picture that? Should we start there? I love you no matter how big you are or how small you are. And you know what? If you lost 15 pounds of muscle, you'd look great to me. And then you give him a big hug and a smooch. Bigorexia solved. You're welcome. For this week's Bro Science Academy, I wanted to talk to you guys about stuff that involves bros and science in an academic fashion. I actually wanted to continue with the trend of the last episode of giving you guys some example workouts and how I think about specific programming in a couple different examples. First of all, I want to continue to give people who may not have access to a gym or might be traveling like me. Here's an example of a workout that I might do in a hotel room in Amarillo, Texas. By the way, when I arrived in Amarillo, Texas, I remember I checked in super late, and the lady at the hotel, was just me and her in the lobby. And I'm like, hey, do you have any rooms tonight? She's like, yeah. And she's like, where are you coming from? I'm like, Rhode Island all the way to California. And she immediately goes, I couldn't do it. I couldn't live in California. As if I was like, could you ever live in California? And she's like, no, I just couldn't do it. But that's like the attitude that people have about, like, as soon as you bring up California, you're like, I'm out, dude. Any mention of it. And I've had that happen multiple times, mostly in Texas. Like, the word California will come up, and people in Texas are like, couldn't do it. Don't fucking force me to move there. I will freak the fuck out and shoot everyone in this elevator. So it's just an interesting phenomenon. Go to Texas and see if it's, just like drop it back. Oh yeah, back in California. And people are just like, spontaneously start puking everywhere. It's an interesting, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I totally get it. Besides the mountains and the beach and the sunshine, sure, there's a lot of homeless people and rent's like $1 million a month. So anyway, let's say this could be a theoretical workout that I do in a hotel room, right? Full body. You're like, oh my God, I only got to work out one time this week, and instead of being a total piece of shit while I'm on the road, I'm going to do one workout in a hotel room that'll take less than 30 minutes, that'll hit my entire body, make me sweat, get those endorphins going, and generally make me feel good with literally zero equipment, save for what would be in a normal room. Like if you're living in a room that has no furniture whatsoever and no bed, and you're literally sleeping on the floor, on top of a blanket or something, sure, you would need a chair. But this assumes you have a chair. First off, I want you to start with a 3-round rest, pause to failure set of either some sort of push exercise. For me, the reps work out so that I can do like a handstand push-up against a wall. Something around, let's say, my first set might be 20 reps to failure. Now, this could also be push-ups for you. It could be push-ups with your feet elevated. It could be pike push-ups where you're bending over at the waist. It could be feet elevated pike push-ups with your feet on the bed or on a chair. But I want you to do a broken set of 3 rest pause sets where you go to failure in the first one, then you wait 15 deep breaths or about 40 seconds, and then you do another set to failure, and then you take 15 more deep breaths, and then you do another set to failure. So let's say I do the handstand push-ups, I do about 20, take the 15 breaths. I do about 12 the next set, take the 15 breaths, and then I do about 6 or 8, right? You've gone to failure 3 times, you've stimulated some growth, you've got things off in a really intense way. And then the rest of the time that you're doing these rounds, you don't have to go to failure per se, but you at least got something in where you're going to failure and pushing it to a 10, where you couldn't do one more rep gun to head. And again, choose the level of variation for a push movement, specifically push, because we don't have a pull-up bar in the hotel room, in this theoretical hotel room. So, anywhere from push-ups on your knees, if that's where you're at, to handstand push-ups or freestanding handstand push-ups with one arm if you're that strong. Now, from then on, you're going to do a full body circuit that would involve a push, a pull, even though, it's not going to be like a pull up, but you do a push, a pull, a squat, a hinge, and an ab. So 3 rounds of this. Push-ups. See if you can hit 20 push-ups. Put your leg up on a chair, and each side, you're going to do a split squat into, for each rep, a Romanian deadlift. Really, it's just hinging over at your hips, but you let your balance foot come off as you reach forward and touch your toes using your glutes and your hamstrings. So that's 1 rep, right? You squat down, and then you come up and you bend over at the waist and engage your glutes and hamstrings, stretch to touch your toe and come up. So you get the squat and the hinge in one movement. Do 10 to 20 reps, wherever you start to feel that burn, on each side, right? So that covers your push, your squat, and your hinge. Then you go down to the floor, hit some reverse crunches, right? So you're leaning back, you're in a V position on the floor, you bring your knees to your chest, and then when you extend your legs all the way, and by the way, you're using like your hands behind your butt, to support yourself in that general area to balance. When you stretch all the way out, I want you to pause for a 1 count, for a 2 count, wherever you're at. And if the crunches are tough enough on their own, you don't need to do it. But if you're like a little more advanced, pause with your feet outstretched completely. It's going to make it really hard. Hit 20 of those if you can. 20 pause reverse crunches actually will be pretty tough for most people. And then to finish it off, you're going to do a push-up-less burpee. So you're basically going to be from a standing position, touch the ground with your hands, kick out into a plank position, and immediately kick back into that bent over position, right? And I'm counting that as a pulling exercise because one thing you'll notice when you do high rep burpees is that position that you're in where you explosively, have weight on your hands and you bring your feet up to your hands, you're actually engaging your lats, right? So if you do, 300 burpees in a row or whatever, you're going to have really sore lats afterwards for most people. So I'm counting that, and it also hits your abs really well. But if you drive pressure into your hands and pull your feet from that plank position into the standing but bent over position, it's going to work your lats. That covers your whole body, right? You're going to take minimal rest in between each of those exercises and then 2 minutes of rest in between rounds and hit 3 rounds. So to recap, the rest pause, handstand push-ups. Then we're going to do a circuit of push-ups, followed by reverse crunches, followed by single leg split squats into RDLs, followed by the push-up-less burpees. And there you go. Instantly, you're buff. You're welcome. Also wanted to talk about examples of a chest workout that I do, because some people will ask me this stuff, and I'll say, sure, I can help you out. I do different chest workouts each week. I also sometimes train people who I work in with, right? So this is an example of, for me, my chest is a lagging body part, so I'll add extra volume and just do a chest workout on my own. And if your chest doesn't get really big just from bench press, a lot of people do respond really well to barbell bench press or incline. You might have to add a few supplementary exercises to your chest workout to really activate all the fibers. And specifically with me, because I have this recurring shoulder issue, certain fibers don't like fire. Like I'll notice, if I just do barbell bench, I'm overcompensating with my strong side because there's some structural damage that makes it weaker, but also like an impingement will literally prevent fibers from firing all the way through my pec in certain areas. So I have to be more careful about actually, making sure that I'm in the stretched and contracted position through various angles to work the things that just aren't firing from particular positions. So here's what I do. That's like a template because it does switch up every time. I might do the same chest workout once every 3 or 4 times. But yesterday I went in, I started with incline bench. I did a reverse pyramid, incline, barbell, bench. I warm up to my top set. I do a set to failure between 5 and 7 reps. I drop down about 15% and do a set of failure for about 6 to 8 or 9 reps. Then I drop down another 15% and try to do a let's say a 10 to 15 rep set to failure. Now, you would probably get growth if you really push that intensity, you would get growth and stimulus just from that. And the incline bench is great for chest, but I don't stop there, do I? Then I'll alternate. If I start with incline, then I'll match it with something on flat, right? So if I were starting on flat bench, I might go to an incline fly with dumbbells. And notice how I'll also, throughout this workout, I incorporate barbells, dumbbells, machines that use both arms pushing the weight equal, and also isolateral machines where the arms move independently. So I go into flat flies using dumbbells. The way that I do it also, I accentuate the stretch in the bottom. I even bring my hands up a little bit towards my ears. I rotate my thumbs toward my body and get an extra little stretch there, and then come up here and imagine I'm hugging somebody as I'm doing it. So my arm doesn't collapse on the weak side specifically. I push up and imagine that I'm hugging somebody. And once I fail on that specific weight, after let's say 10, I do a few more reps with a stretched dumbbell press. So now I'm just putting the weight to my sides, and I'm going to failure again with the dumbbells from a stretch position, right? So I'm not bringing it so close in here that my body and my chest actually physically prevents me from going deeper. I'm bringing the weights right to my side, getting a deep stretch and pushing up. From there, I will incorporate a machine like a flat, bench machine where you're seated. It's just a horizontal press, right? So I'm doing that and still using relatively heavy weights in the range of about 8 to failure. Do 2 to 3 sets there. Make sure I'm pausing, coming up. I'm not bouncing, never bounce the weight on a stack or anything like that. But I just want a full range of motion, bring it back, take a big breath, expand my chest so that I'm initiating the movement from my chest because my chest is stretched at the beginning of the movement. Do 3 sets there. And then yesterday I was like, I wanted to do some cable crossovers, but somebody's always in the cable crossover area, like doing something on one side versus the other. So that's another principle, is that I always stay flexible. Right? I never go in there with one idea and say, well, I have to do it, so I'm going to wait, even though it might take 20 minutes. I never let the flow of my workout be interrupted because I always am willing to throw in alternates, So never, I think if efficiency is a big thing for you, don't get stuck up on a particular exercise. If the cable crossovers, which is an exercise I love because you can adjust your range of motion as you're going through, again, especially when you have problem areas, and you need to really focus on that mind-muscle connection to finish off the muscle after doing your big movers and your compound movements. I love the cable crossover because it allows the freedom of range of motion, but a secondary choice is the pec deck, right? I'll make little adjustments on it. Like instead of grabbing the handles, I'll grab the bars that come down, right? Something about it, I don't know, but you got to pimp that machine out like it's your bottom bitch and make it work for you, okay? So that's an example of a 4 exercise, 3 sets each, 12 sets total, something you might hit twice and still be within that range of, ideal volume for the week of, roughly around 20. You can adjust that if you're a beginner. You can either take an exercise out and do 3 sets, 3 exercises of 3 sets, or maybe you want to do the 4 exercises and do 2 each to failure or close to failure within 2 to 3 reps of failure would still be effective for you. So try it out. And for every one of those workouts, just know that I got a couple isolations and a couple compound movements, right? A barbell, a dumbbell, a machine that allows me individual range of motion. So if you hit all those things and swap out for different angles, like the cable crossovers could be from a lower angle coming high to work the upper fibers more. The machine that you use could be a dip machine, like a tricep pushdown machine where you're leaning forward to really stretch out your chest and also use use the movement, again, pimp it out to work your chest rather than just your triceps. Is it starting to make sense? Is this something that you want to hear more about? How do I work out when I'm isolating actual body parts, right? When I'm not just doing a straight up push-pull legs or upper body, lower body and keeping it all simple, how do I do a high volume bodybuilding style workout? If you want to know more, drop a comment down below with the body part that you want to hear about. Oh boy, I'm going to put my chef hat on for a second and bring you another Hella Chef Harley to fucks with. Okay, so people always ask about the keto diet, right? And I'm just going to show you an example of me when I got ripped using keto, what I was actually eating on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. I'm not saying this is the strictest way to do it because I think I have more carbs than would typically be recommended. The breakdown that I had for my ketogenic diet, that I would just eat the same thing every single day, work out fasted, and then eat this immediately afterwards, like 10 o'clock or something like that. And then also go on a run, do some sort of cardio before my second meal. This is what I ate to get down to a really low body fat, let's say about 8%. I would eat for breakfast breakfast, quote unquote, my first meal of the day, I would eat 12 ounces of New York strip, 5 eggs, 2 tablespoons of A1 steak sauce, 2 cups of spinach, 1 cup of broccoli, 1 whole avocado, and 5 pieces of thick sliced bacon. Mark, that sounds like an enormous amount of food. Well, it is. 1,700 calories, though. So maybe it sounds like more with the steak and the eggs and the bacon and the avocado, but it's not that much, right? If you were to just eat that one meal, most people would lose weight on that. If you're like under 200 pounds, you would lose weight very rapidly on that meal. The great thing about keto is it's super satiating. So that meal right there would fill me up, for the next 6 or 7 hours. I wouldn't feel like, oh my God, I'm getting really hungry. Like, you're full and you're satisfied without feeling bloated. I think that's one of the benefits of keto, is that all that protein, all that fat, and you're combining, fiber as well from the vegetables. It was a satisfying meal that I could repeat every single day, and I didn't really get tired of it for months because steak tastes good. The second meal that I would have, but basically it's a protein shake with a bunch of extra shit in it. So here we go. Okay, so I would use 3 scoops of Gold Standard Whey from Costco, 330 calories. A cup of frozen blueberries, 70 calories. 2 tablespoons peanut butter, 190 calories. 50 almonds, you don't have to count them out, but it's like 2 small fistfuls, about 2 ounces. That's 347 calories. And then a cup of unsweetened vanilla almond milk. Mix that with a bunch of ice and drink that as a gigantic, hearty, fat-filled, delicious shake. Now that's only 967 calories. So my total calories for the day were 2,700. And as a guy who was weighing upwards of 230 pounds, that put me in a pretty good deficit, especially given the exercise that I was doing, high intensity exercise, at least once a day, and then running up a hill or doing a small flat run towards the end of the day. That was enough to put me in a big deficit, keep me lean, while also continuing my strength gains. So I made really good strength progress as well. Perhaps not ideal, but I was getting stronger. So tell me your experience with the keto diet. Do you think 70 grams of carbs is too much? Am I not in ketosis? Oh my God. And see, that's the thing. Like, I don't think you have to necessarily be in ketosis to benefit from this type of diet. I've done carbs like a little bit lower, even though it's not keto, like at 150, right? And noticed similar effects. It's just one way to go about things. It could be low carb and not necessarily keto or keto inducing, and also the activity level that you do is going to have an effect on that as well. So I want you to put your experience down there. One thing that I noticed actually counterintuitively, because people will always be like, oh, meat is the thing that gives you like, oh, I ate all this meat and I'm shitting. Really, when I cut out carbs and specifically processed carbs, because that's really what you're noticing in this diet, it's only vegetables and the almonds and the blueberries that are a source of carbohydrates in there. There's no processed carbohydrates whatsoever. I noticed that my stools became really hard and regular. I'm going to be real with you. This is TMI, but I almost never had to wipe my ass. It would be a ghost shit. I would go to wipe and I wouldn't see anything in there, okay? And it was kind of cool because you save money on toilet paper. So that's all you need to know is keto counterintuitively will help you save money on toilet paper. And if the pandemic starts raging again, you know what to do. Start eating keto and start having those clean shits. All right, we got another Saucy or Not. This time we're looking at a guy that I discovered myself. He came up on my Instagram feed named Johnny Hollywood, _Johnny, _Hollywood. This guy is pretty ripped. You want to click on that IG profile? There we go. So I thought this guy would be an interesting one to do because he's an example of somebody who's claiming natty in his bio, right? And at first glance at him, I mean, he's like really lean. He has really great insertions and all these things. He doesn't necessarily look natty, or I think he wouldn't look natty to many people looking at him because he's got a phenomenal physique. I just wanted to analyze some of the things that I look at and go, actually, this guy could be natural because of some observations that I have. So when you look at his IG Nowadays, it's a lot of pictures of him looking really lean, like his triceps are feathered, meaning he has like striations in his triceps up here. I think he has disproportionately big arms compared to a lot of people, which is always something that I think makes you look not natty, right? If you're sort of blessed with big triceps or big biceps naturally compared to other body parts, it makes you look unnatural. He also has a sort of wide chest, like just the frame of his chest in and of itself, as we can see here, is very wide compared to his waist. So that's another ratio that, you know, if you have like a bird chest and wide hips, you're probably not going to get accused of being unnatural anytime soon. But when you have those things going on, it creates this illusion that your chest is even bigger, right? And that your lats are even bigger, when really that's just your bone structure, creating that illusion. Now, you still have to get ripped like this guy. You still have to put in that work. But one of the things to note is it's often talked about in these natty or not discussions, the deltoids. People who are on heavy anabolics and specifically androgens, really strong androgens like trenbolone, you look at their shoulders and their shoulders tend to look disproportionately big, or they grow more over time because it's said to be a result of the androgen receptors in your shoulders and in your trap area or in your neck region, the yoke region, if you will, that respond to steroids even more than other areas of your body. So when you look at somebody like his biceps are disproportionately big, does he have the biggest shoulders? And those are some body parts that I've noticed when you cut down, you tend to lose volume in your shoulders when you're natural, right? So I look at that and go, okay, his shoulders are very well developed, but do they look unnatural? No, they don't. Now, there's some other pictures. If we click back to the file, I wanted to show that picture right there because here's him. They always recognize the result, but neglect the journey that brought you to where you are, almost 5 years in the making. Here we see a picture of him. If he's 21 now, and that was, did he say 5 years ago? No, 6 years, right? So he is at 15. If you're looking like this at 15, well, you've got a genetic advantage on most people, just as far as your shape, just as far as your insertions, just as far as your, the number of muscle cells you're naturally carrying around. I don't know how much training went into this per se, but if you look like that at 15, it's not going to surprise me when at 21, you're looking like a competitive bodybuilder on stage. There's another pic right below that. You know what? Yes. So we see him now. That's the transformation pic. We see it's not necessarily that crazy, right? You can tell he's put on a good deal of muscle. Maybe he's gotten 15 pounds more muscular. Maybe he's, dropped a few percentage points, but he already had abs in the first pic and now they're just really lean. So let's say, it'd be interesting to see what his weight was, but my guess is 15 to 20 pounds of muscle and dropping about 10 pounds of fat. So it's possible he only weighs like 5 or 10 pounds more in that second pic than he does in the first pic. The other telling thing was a picture that I saw from 2019 at the bottom there where he's got a little bit of body fat. So my assumption is back in 2019, he was bulking, right? We see what that subtle increase in body fat, if you go from like 8 to even like 13% or 15%, where you can kind of see abs, but they're not super clear. He probably has the same amount of muscle in that picture, but without the super lean body fat percentage, he doesn't look saucy, right? And this is a phenomenon that I want everybody to take into account because I was thinking about this. Greg O'Gallagher from Kino Body will post these amazing transformations, and I think most of the guys that he posts are natural. A guy he posted yesterday, maybe I'll go into this next week, Greg was getting a lot of questions about whether or not he was natural. And it brings up this idea that if you lose a bunch of body fat, if you really get down to 8% body fat while retaining muscle, not just like stripping it all down recklessly and doing crash dieting over the course of a couple months to just get crazy lean by eating nothing and fucking yourself up like that. If you actually put on the muscle mass and strip it down slowly over time in a controlled, intelligent way, it's really the leanness that makes people look like they're enhanced, because when your waist gets that small and you have the cuts, in your abs and your obliques and your serratus, that looks much more dramatic. And then you get more vascular. And then you have the things like the striations in your triceps. Steroids don't create striations, right? They're there or they're not, and they're revealed by the low body fat percentage that you achieve through dieting. And I guess I'll just end it by saying, congrats, Johnny Hollywood. Let me know what you guys think. Is this dude natural, as he claims, or is he a fucking psychopathic liar? Let me know. And that brings up another, a lot of people have been asking me a question. And Christian, you might know somebody who asked this question. They'll go, Mark, what is the best steroid to take for cutting body fat? What is the best steroid to take that I can just get ripped? And you might be looking at somebody who's like 30% body fat. I'm not saying you asked that, but somebody you know asked that. Here is the answer to the question, what is the best steroid to take for getting shredded? It's this new designer steroid called a caloric deficit. No steroids will make you ripped, okay? You cannot out steroid a huge caloric surplus. So even if the answer might be something like tren will help partition nutrients in such a way that, and also raise your core temperature in such a way, or even HGH or clenbuterol, or these things that are known as fat burning agents that can aid and probably, burn an extra few hundred calories a day. If you are determined to eat a caloric surplus, if you are 30% body fat, no steroid is going to make you ripped. The only way, taking a steroid like Masteron or Primo or a DHT derivative, like Anavar, Winstrol, they can enhance the look of you being ripped and make you look more hard and dramatic at a certain body fat percentage, but no steroid will make you ripped if you're eating in a caloric surplus. You can take tren and get fat. You can take Winstrol and get fat. You can take Anavar and get fat. You can take Masteron and get fat. You can take any steroid on the planet in any combination and get fat if your diet sucks and you're eating in a caloric surplus. So the first step, if your idea is I want to get ripped, you have to get your diet in control and you have to eat in a caloric deficit and aid that, with exercise and cardio. But all the cardio in the world is not going to allow you to get shredded if you're eating in a giant caloric surplus either. So really, that is the only non-negotiable in getting ripped, is eating in a caloric deficit. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to end off with another classic. This is why we can't have nice gyms. This was sent to me by a friend at a gym that I frequent. Let's play it. Okay, this guy's got 115 in the bar, doing lunges, but he's kind of just doing like a boop, 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 boop. So, yes, I'm picking on this guy. Does he have his face in the video? Nope. But I'm using this one because this isn't a grandpa that we're looking at. This isn't a guy who's crippled in some way. This isn't a guy who doesn't have full function of his body. This is a guy who's in a power squat rack, right? They have the platforms, with the bumper plates and all that. So you deliberately went in there when you could have just put a prefixed barbell on your back or grabbed a couple dumbbells or whatever. You chose this out. That's the right place to do it. You are able-bodied. You are in your 20s or 30s. There is nothing about you that screams, I'm a complete novice, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm mentally retarded and therefore have an excuse. This is just a guy taking the tiniest of steps forward to lunge and then actually doing more work by bending forward, okay? So my question is always, who taught you that, right? You have the intelligence to sign yourself up for a gym. You have the intelligence to go on your phone and look up how to do a barbell lunge. And no person on the planet is going to recommend to you, no fitness professional is going to recommend to you, what you're going to want to do is step out and then make sure your depth doesn't go below 3 inches, and also make sure your upper body comes forward in a really cute way where you poke your chest out and everybody can see your nipples in the mirror. But it's got to be cute, right? That's the operative thing here is cuteness, right? We want to go boop. We want to step back and go boop, right? Are the boys looking? Are the girls looking? Is everyone looking because I'm cute and I'm lunging and I'm doing it and are my glutes getting bigger yet? No, they're not, because you're not providing any stress. How about you half the weight, or how about you ditch the barbell entirely? Because that's really what pisses me off. Is this guy's in a lifting platform where people could be doing cleans, jerks, squats, deads, and he's doing bullshit barbell lunges with 115 pounds when he needs to master his own body weight first. And you can do a lot with body weight lunges and jump lunges. You can fuck yourself up on them. Even as an advanced lifter, you can get a lot out of these body weight exercises. But this is an example of a person who needs to start there. Master yourself, okay? Before you hop under that barbell, can you even do the thing that you're doing with your own body weight? If the answer is no, then don't go with the damn barbell. I keep telling you people, you can't just go up to equipment that you don't know how to use and then take it from somebody else who would be using it correctly. And now they can't work out, and you're doing a workout that's not even a workout. You need to go back to square one. You need to look up a goddamn YouTube video. There's tutorials everywhere. Buy a YouTube Premium account. Is that too much to ask? I will send you $15 and you can buy it and you can spend a month using my account, okay? Don't tell YouTube that we are sharing this account and we're not family, because if you do, we could be in a serious violation of copyright infringement issues according to the NBA and the NFL and the MLB, all right?